we're also streaming on YouTube as well. If you prefer that, that's why we have these wonderful microphones here for better sound for YouTube.
I'm sure a lot of people are like, their microphones are not
They're
working.
not fake microphones. They're actually serving a purpose. So, yes. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Thank you to YouTube. We are Artory DTLA. This is our 12th episode, I think.
Wow,
Who would have thought?
12,
Wow.
yeah, 12th episode. We were doing every Friday, but now we are changing to every other Friday with some exceptions because the workload is actually really heavy. So.
Yeah, we have just a lot of projects coming up, a lot of things that kind of are stretching us a little thin, but you know we're definitely dedicated to creating as much quality content as possible. So that just means just a little bit more time, a little bit more space to kind of breathe and create some cool stuff.
Yeah,
and
I would like to give a quick shout out to Silver and Goals for our wonderful candle.
That
here.
smells really nice.
This one, it's a great candle.
It's an
there's
amazing candle.
Beautiful silver tools that go along with it as well for cutting the wick, trimming the wick, and putting the candle out at the end. You know, old school style.
Nice.
You know, we don't really see those anymore. It's citronella and orchid. All right.
Yeah, creating an ambiance already.
We have the ambiance. So we are here today with the wonderful Ming Wang, and he is a wood craftsman. That's what we've been calling you.
How would you classify yourself?
You know, woodworker, actually. Yeah.
What's the difference, if you don't mind me asking, if there is
between
one?
woodworker and craftsman? I feel that the craftsman part of it comes much later on. Anybody can really be a woodworker, you know. But to specialize in something, and you know, for example, I don't know if you're familiar with Sam Malouf.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, he's a really famous woodworker. And I think most people would actually classify him. He's passed away for a little bit. He's pretty much one of the names that people kind of throw around whenever they think of a master craftsman.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, thanks, but I'd like to kind of. I still kind of consider myself more of a woodworker than anything else.
I understand it. I mean, I feel like there's always so much to learn when it comes to a craft.
Yes.
Right, and to have that moniker kind of placed upon you. I get it, but from our perspectives, we're just huge fans. So we're like,
oh, thank you.
Ming's at the top.
I mean, it's working with wood alone for sure is a craft, and we saw that as like, this is like I appreciate that word. Like craftsman to me seems like very high up. Like you're saying, and so I was like, of course Ming's that.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen his tables, and they're amazing.
Yeah. Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. So for people who may not know, Ming is a amazing woodworker. We've been kind of right across the way from him in the same warehouse at Big Art Labs for the past, three years?
For you, I've known you for a while.
Right? It seems like time just
he
flies.
He says it every single time. He's like, I've only been at Big Art Labs for like 2-3 years. I'm like, no, you've been there longer.
I don't know. It's like, for me, it feels like forever, and then also like it just happened yesterday.
Or
you know?
sometimes being there, it just feels the time. It feels fleeting.
Yes,
you know, when
it's very like hinky.
Yeah,
there, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's because it's what we do there. It's like the creative things that we're kind of that kind of makes time slip like that.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. And when you're lost in what you're doing, you know, it's easy to lose track of time. And,
for sure.
And for us, I guess we've lost track of years.
many years. But it's been a pleasure, really truly a pleasure to be a tenant mate and get to see you do your thing. And
Thanks.
I remember when I first started out there and kind of saw probably like knew you peripherally, and to have throughout the years getting to know you more and more, I've just come to appreciate not only your work but just how you approach your work.
Oh, thank you.
You know, I think I think even the way that you describe yourself with, like saying like you're a woodworker, it shows you that you're almost like you take to heart that idea of being a student, like to heart, I think. And I think that's like an amazing thing to have. And it makes me want to do that as well.
Yeah, I think that with anything, we always try to build kind of a foundation, and everything after that, we're just trying to build on top of it. And I've always said to you guys and to everybody else who actually inquired about, my work and my products, that I'm always learning something new every day, I don't pretend to know it all. And, there's just still so much more for me to tackle, and that, and I think that that's one of the tenets that I have is that every day is a learning process. So I try, doing my best to keep myself humble, because it is. I mean, there really are other woodworkers who are more skilled than I am.
Yeah.
I mean, much more skilled. But it always gets me to, build on my skills and to come up with something newer, fresher, different. So it can be a struggle sometimes, but I think that there are times when I just try to fall back and go back to basics. That's what I try to do.
Yeah. So in terms of your role, I mean, Julia kind of had the privilege of really getting to know you, and I was kind of getting little tidbits kind of from behind the scenes. So,
yeah, doing the pre-interview,
the studio visit,
My deepest, darkest secrets.
It was casual.
Very casual. So how about we start there? Like, how long have you been kind of a student in this craft and woodworking?
So, as far as what. In my current capacity, probably, I want to say close to 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So, that sounds about right, because I know that I've been at Big Arts for about 5 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so I had a studio over at Keystone for about 4 years. Yeah, so that sounds about right.
Wow.
Yeah, but as far as the learning the woodworking, it goes back to college. I went to the University of Texas, and I remember a group of friends and we went to a town called Fredericksburg, and we were just kind of screwing around there, getting drunk, and and there was I remember, and it's German settlers in that town, and touristy, and so there were craft type of classes going on, and there was one for wood cutting, I said, what the hell, and I was just, it was fun, it was simple, but I kind of got hooked, I think that was the first time that I really had an appreciation for any kind of craft, really,
Really?
Yeah, I never really was exposed to much of the arts, growing up, and so I think that I've always thought of myself as a creative person, but I've never had a creative outlet, to kind of exercise that creativity, and so and sometimes all it takes is that kind of a format. It was just a simple class, a couple of people, and we carved out wooden walking sticks. But it was all hand tools, and there was no machinery, it was just all, chisels and blades, and so it was. And I think I had more of a respect for that really gritty kind of craft type work. So yeah, and we have to jump forward many years before I actually decided to build upon those skills that I had, way back when.
And how many years do you think? How many years was that where you were like, or maybe this is even a better question. When did you begin to see like, oh, this is something that I want to do as like a potential career?
I kind of fell into it. Yeah. So when I bought my place in Pasadena, I go back. Even when I was really young, I knew that there were, if I had all the money in the world, there were two things I wanted: a Nakashima table and a Sam Maloof rocker. Okay, and unfortunately, over the years, those now they go into six figures each. So they're just collector's items, but they're just works of art. I mean, they're just the most beautiful things in the world. And so I remember, so when I got my place, I knew that I wanted a live edge table, but I had no intention on making one. And I went everywhere. Number one, they're very hard to find, even in a market like Los Angeles. You really can't find it, and when you can, and when you do find something like that, they tend to be really expensive. I mean, thousands of dollars. And I said, screw it. You know what? I still want one. I'm going to make one. And it took several months for me to kind of source a mill that would actually, it wasn't a big piece, my very first piece, but it took several months for me to source a mill, borrow some tools, and I couldn't find a place to actually do the work. Yeah. So I had to do it in the alley behind my building. Man, it really pissed off the neighbors.
I'm sure. Like, where is dust coming from?
Yeah, exactly. So, and that was about 13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and I never had any intention of making anything else other than what I had already made for myself. So this girl I was dating at the time was really, she was really into it. The whole furnishing interior design thing. She was actually an apprentice. For a big name interior designer here in Los Angeles, and she didn't know what I was up to, and she didn't know where I had gotten that table. And I said, "Oh, I just made it," and she was totally floored by it.
She was like, "What?"
Now, there are actually two pivotal moments. That was number one. The second one was getting me to go that extra step to actually do the woodworking. Okay, and I'm going to drop some names because if I don't, I'm going to feel really bad because these are the guys that really got me really into it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So there are these tennis pals of mine, Greg, Aki, Tyson, and Rory. And after tennis, we'd always, grab a bite to eat. And I remember there was a time when I was always bitching about how I really, really want to start doing more woodworking, but I just didn't. I just, kind of felt, too much of an investment, or I need to find time, place, do it. And one night they were like, just shut up and do it. Yeah, and that's kind of how it started, and I really owe it to them as far as, just putting a boot to my ass and just, telling me just do it.
Sound like good friends.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's what you need.
Yeah. Or they were just tired of my incessant just talking.
I don't know.
Like, shut up already.
Yeah.
Do it or don't do it. Just do something.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. So, and the rest is history from there. Right. I started making a few more things, and then
in the same alley.
In the same alley, and then going back to my ex, she was the one who actually got me to try out the Pasadena flea market. That's so
at the Rose Bowl, right?
At the Rose Bowl, correct. The Rose Bowl flea market, and more than anything, she said that would be a good gauge as far as how receptive people are to the work that I was doing. They would either love it or they would hate it. I said, what the hell, I could probably do it. So I made about, I want to say like 12 or 13 tables, mostly coffee tables. I did dining table, a console, and what have you. And I was a newbie. I didn't know how to set it up, and luckily I had neighbors over at the Rose Bowl Flea Market who were kind enough to help me. I mean, it was like one of the hottest summers on record, and I didn't have a tent or anything.
Oh, dang, that sounds brutal.
It was really brutal.
The wildfires are going to start in that area with all the wood you got.
Exactly. But they helped me set it up, and more than anything, I said to myself, okay, if they sell, great. If they don't, I've got 13 tables to give away.
There you go.
Right. So the doors opened, and I sold every one of them within 3 hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
There were people who had either never seen them, those type of tables before, or others who were in a similar position that I was in the beginning, where they couldn't find them, and when they did, they were just way out. It was way out of their price range.
What year was this?
This was about 13 years ago. Yeah.
And do you?
No. I take that back.
Okay.
This was about maybe 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay. Interesting. Because now I feel like live edge tables has become kind of like an in vogue kind of item right now.
Yeah, it's pretty. It seems pretty ubiquitous now. Back when I was doing it, for example, one of the outlets that I had first sold through was actually through Etsy. Okay, and at that time, you count with one hand how many people were actually doing live edge stuff. Right.
Wow.
Now you can't count them because there's so many of them. You know.
Multitude.
Yeah. You know. So I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword. You know. It's encouraging to see more people, and there are a lot of people who are genuinely in it. You know, they consider themselves woodworkers, and they have this passion. And then on the flip side, there are those who are looking to turn a quick buck.
For sure.
Yeah. You know, but I mean that's with really, that's with a lot of things really too.
Yeah.
You know, so. But now, they seem to be everywhere. I mean, you go on Instagram, and you know, there's no shortage of woodworkers who are trying their hand at live edge stuff, and you know, so.
There's even newbies like Julia and I trying our hand at the.
Oh, I don't know about that. I've seen. This,
I've learned everything from you. Let's just put it that way. I've had a good teacher. So.
Thanks.
I was funny when I was kind of when we were getting ready to come over here. I was thinking about. Like how much of a kinship that we kind of shared just being out in the Big Art Labs outdoor area, just slaving away, getting just super dusted by all that sawdust and just standing for hours and hours.
Or just having everybody out there all at once.
Oh, for sure. And we're just all it's like organized chaos.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Like
you walk up and there's a tornado.
Exactly, right.
Like wood chips. And,
Yeah.
So much fun though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing for sure.
So I want to I want to talk about your transition out of finance into this too.
Okay.
And so because I just find that so interesting, for people to start in something that's like the complete opposite of what they end up in, And so what was that transition like for you? And do you miss that kind of that aspect of what you did, or?
Well, during the pandemic, I wasn't completely out of it. So
okay.
so I had when March and April of last year, when basically the shit really hit the fan, like my emails and phone inquiries, I mean, it was just quiet, nothing. I mean, that was for maybe 3 months. I mean, dead. So I used to do a lot of trading. And trading on a proprietary basis, and I was always so I'm kind of a math nerd. So I do a lot. So I've done. I have done in the past a lot of technical, quantitative analysis and algorithm type of trading, and so there's really it was something, but I burned out on something like that, and that's why So I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in finance, and I went straight into the finance field. I wanted to. I thought that I wanted to go into investment banking, and back in the '80s, there was a term called the Masters of the Universe. Okay, not the cartoon. Okay, so if you ever read The Bonfire of the Vanities, it's a term where people who go into investment banking make a boatload of money and just party hard.
Yeah,
I thought that's what I wanted to do.
Like, sign me up.
I feel like everybody goes through a period where they're like, I just want to make a shit ton of money, and just like live my best life.
Well, it was the time of the yuppies and all. So. So I was in the field as a broker and as a trader for many years, and then I just hated it. I mean, I just got burned out, and knew that I wanted to possibly transition to something else. So, and that's what led me to California. I came out here in the late '90s, almost late '90s. And I had a couple of friends who were in the entertainment business on the finance side of it. Back then, you had a lot of money that where financiers, independent financiers, but that totally got destroyed when the recession hit, when the very first recession hit, way back when. And so I got into that for a little while, and then when that completely died, I did a little cast. I was a commercial talent agent for a couple of years too, and enjoyed it. But and I worked for a mom and pop agency. It wasn't one of those big, like Endeavors or William Morris or ICM. So but I always knew that I wanted to do something creative. Going back to what I said earlier, I always felt that I had some kind of a creative, streak in me. But I needed that spark, to get it going. And so that's kind of how it gelled right there. It was so how I got into it. Burnout, maybe. I mean, I think that's one way. But also just wanting to try something different, something new. And I had no intention of turning this into a business at all. Right. It was it started off as a hobby, but it was very slow going at first. It was not an overnight thing by any stretch of the imagination. But I'd always balanced that with my work, so it wasn't like I quit my job and then did this. That wasn't, the case at all. And in fact, even to this day, I still do some contracting work with in the entertainment business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you ever see yourself making the full leap into woodworking? Just that it's your solo means of income?
I get asked that question a lot, and the answer is no.
Okay.
Because it's a physically taxing.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure.
I mean, and maybe you've heard me bitch and complain about the ailments that I go through, and Linda, who is my studio mate, love her to death, but I think she's so sick and tired of me just bitching about my back.
I can never see Linda ever being like.
She's probably seething right now, how could you say that?
Yeah. Well, it's just it's real. It takes a toll on your body, and unfortunately, I'm no spring chicken anymore. So as much as I can deny the fact that I'm hurting, I'm hurting, and it takes me a while to recover. So
that's interesting. It almost sounds like it's like you kind of give a piece of yourself to like each individual commission almost. In that
I pretty much do.
Yeah,
interesting.
In a sense, yeah.
It's like there's a lot of of that give and take, and I mean, I've always been very interested. It's the way you speak of. At least in that aspect of your work, it sounds very much the way like an artist would speak of their like canvas, let's say.
Yeah, exactly.
Would you consider yourself an artist in that kind of way?
I always hesitate calling myself an artist.
Every artist does.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's something about it.
It really wasn't until I remember. There was this woman, Lainey, who bought one of my tables. One of the kindest, sweetest women. I mean, just a customer people would dream about having. That was the first time she actually said, "This is just a work of art. You're a true artist, Ming." And that for some reason, it just stuck. It resonated in a way that I. Never fully accepted, or had some trouble trying to reconcile that. And even to this day, it was like, I still, I treat it as a compliment. I really do, but I don't think I've ever approached anybody and say, "Hi, I'm Ming, artist." I think it's a label that I'm more comfortable other people attributing to me rather than attributing it to myself.
Like well, we would definitely call you an artist. So that's why you're here. Talk to artisans of the community. And so,
And I mean, I think even the way that like when we go and ask you about your latest piece of work that you're working on, and you tell us gives a full backstory on the type of wood, about how things that we're to our eyes are like, oh, that's a pretty piece of wood, and you're telling us like these features that have these technical names, and like for example on that piece that you were showing us, I think it was forget. No, it wasn't mahogany. It was the piece that you were doing for Linda, for you and Linda's.
The walnut.
The
burl.
walnut, yes.
Right,
and you were talking about
burl.
these like the specific lines.
Oh,
that,
right. The grains and the undulations and
exactly.
Right,
and and to me that that shows me an artist who knows what he's working with.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, and I think that with any artist, it kind of it gives you an indication of the passion that he or she has, and when you can sense that, and that doesn't register because that's in my nature. I just say that. But it's funny you should mention that.
No, I love it when you do that.
Because when I ask somebody, if I'll ask some of my neighbors, or better yet, like Linda, Linda's always creating something new as far as her designs and even the mediums, the different types of clays. And I love when she kind of goes off on just a tangent sometimes, describing the nature of what she's working with, and that's just it. I mean, I think true artists really do get lost in their passion, really, and I think that's a great thing. Yeah.
Did you always? I mean, was that something that was slow to build, or coming back to that first class that you took? Was it like, oh my goodness, there's something there?
I don't think it was something I was actively conscious about. You could go through books and read about different woods and the technicalities of it all, and I just kind of absorb it all, and it just comes back out whenever people ask about it. And even that goes with the work itself too. The techniques. Or working different tools, whether it's machinery or hand tools, and and I think that whenever I talk to other woodworkers too, again, it's a learning process for me too. I'm always learning something new every day, and I just when I see people who are that passionate, it gets me to be really passionate about that craft as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can feel the energy in the room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. That's amazing. So another thing I was very curious about was, you have an ever amassing collection of wood slabs, and we always love they're laid up so beautifully, in the hallway, and it's great to always be like, okay, what does Ming have now? Let's see what goods he has today. And I was just curious, like what goes into your selection?
So because if it was up to me, I would turn our building into a lumber yard. But because I'm working with a limited, and I think that so I also get a lot of so whenever I get inquiries with regards to my tables and custom orders, people also want to know, well, can I choose, or can I, is there a selection I can choose from, what have you? And I tell them it's kind of limited, but what I do have, I personally curate. I think over the years you tend to know what can sell, what doesn't, and also, what's really beautiful. I mean, you can have something that's just crazy beautiful figuring, but if it's a dining table, it's not functional. If the live edge is just all over the place, So, but for a dining table, you need something that's a little more linear, but with contours. But you need it where a person's torso isn't going to get sliced in half. So the woods that you see in my studio, out in the hallway, and sometimes outside, I tend to curate, and where it's, and any woodworker will tell you that it's best to keep a certain turnover going, because you don't want to keep something parked forever. Which unfortunately I do have a few things that have been there for a while.
It happens.
Yeah, but also I try not to fall in love with each piece, and because it's hard to part with them sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure. After so many hours of just looking at the same piece of wood, getting it level, and really making that piece of wood sing. I think I can understand that.
There's a so I have to tell you a true story on that note.
Yeah.
So the coffee table that I have in my place right now, it was one that it was a custom order for another customer. Okay, and I don't, you know how with some artists, they say don't fall in love with your own work, you know, but others will say you should fall in love with your own work. You know, I tend to be the former, you know, but after I made it, I loved it so much. So the customer arranged to have it picked up, and I said, okay, well, it's gone.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks later, I just found myself just, you know, racked with regret.
Wow.
Yeah. And I called the customer back and I asked them if I could buy it back from him.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that before. Most of the artists that I know are like, get it out of here. You know, like I would never have it back. I mean, they love it, but they're like, get it on somebody else's wall, whatever. I've never had them buy it back.
Yeah, and it was.
Wow. It's really that good then.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I had, and he, you know, so other than buying it back, I had to basically cut him the deal of a century.
Yeah, because he was like, I love it too. You know?
What am I gonna do? Where am I gonna put my coffee now?
Right.
So what did you do though? Did you make him another one?
I did.
Oh,
okay. I did. Yeah,
nice,
it was, and it was a beautiful table.
Same wood?
No, different one.
Okay.
Yeah, and the table I have is actually a really common wood. It's tulip wood. Okay.
Tulip
Yeah,
wood.
you probably it also goes by poplar.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Poplar,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
makes sense.
But it's funny because a lot of lumber yards don't like to call it poplar because it's a pretty common wood.
Oh, so they want to kind of dress
right.
it up a little
exactly,
bit.
Yeah.
I mean, tulip wood, yeah, like
yeah, it kind of has
piqued my
that,
interest a
a
little bit.
mystique
Yeah.
tulip wood, you know.
But it is gorgeous. I mean, the ones that when you go to even Home Depot, you know, some of them have like some nice greens and different colorations that are, I think, fantastic.
Yeah, and so the one that I have that I made, it's a book match, and it was just something I'd never seen before, you know, and even when I had actually gotten it from my mill, I knew this piece was really special. Yeah. So, but I'm really glad that, you know, it all worked out in the end.
Good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you, I guess on that note, do you ever have pieces of wood that you like to work with, or are the pieces a little, you know, like, I don't want to, like mahogany, I don't want to work with mahogany.
Yeah.
Like, or are you kind of like an open book when it comes to these
you know,
pieces of wood?
there are some woods that are actually endangered that I avoid, you know, like the plague. Koa wood, for example, is native in Hawaii and some of the other Polynesian islands. And you've seen or heard of Koa wood furniture as well. I mean, it's out there. But
I can't say that I'm familiar exactly with what it looks like.
It kind of has an exotic look to it.
In
really,
terms of the edge or like the color?
both
like
the edge, the color, and especially the grain. You know, it doesn't look anything like a domestic, you know, walnut or a maple.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But it's been over harvested over the years, and it's also been, you know, Koa unfortunately has been, you know, result of illegal logging, a lot of it too.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think, you know, especially these days with deforestation being such a hot button issue, you know, especially with, you know, the whole climate change, you know, the larger climate change umbrella, you know, topic of discussion. I think woodworkers in general these days have to be really careful about where the woods that they're getting are sourced, and that applies to even the domestic hardwoods here. So the mills that I work with, they most of them are the mom and pop type mills. Yeah. But I go initially there was always a vetting process. You know, you want to ask them, and you want to make sure that the wood that they're milling have all resulted in trees that have been either naturally felled or had to come down because disease, developers buying a piece of land and putting up, you know, a shopping mall or what have you.
Crazy nonsense.
Yeah. Because generally these woods get chipped and get dumped in the landfill. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully there's woodworkers like yourself
Yeah,
that are, taking what people potentially want to throw away and making it into something beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sustainable.
Yeah, it really is, and but going back to especially some of the exotics, I get people who call me, I don't know, well, I shouldn't say shady people, but people are questionable about them, pitching, because there are some woods out there that just shouldn't be on the open market at all.
Oh, really? I'm surprised that they would come to you and be like, hey, can you give me some a live edge of Kona wood or something?
Koa,
Koa wood,
yeah. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago there was he was actually an importer exporter, and he had Gabon ebony, which is one of the hardest woods, but it's a super black wood. It's really beautiful, just inky black.
Yeah. Wow.
But but red flags, they just start, going up, and
it's that just because it's endangered.
It's a very much endangered wood.
And so for stuff like that,
I just pass. Thanks, but no thanks. And it's just I have a guilty conscience too. I mean, I think part of what I do, you feel good about what you've made and what materials you've made out of.
For sure.
I don't think I could really live with myself if I knew that there was something I created out there that was just that came from something that shouldn't have come down.
Wow, what a good man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy for people to take on, depending on their financial situation, especially, like, it's really easy for people to say, yeah, I'll do that. It's not, probably the best thing to do, but I need the money, so I'm just going to do it. But, it's not common for people to be like, no, I don't need your money.
Right.
So it's really nice that you have that in mind and that you maintain that thought process.
Yeah, that's just an ethical view on these things.
It's important for the purchaser to have somebody like you to be mindful, because there are a lot of people who care about where they're getting their stuff from, where the wood comes from, and so we would buy something that.
Yeah, and I think that if woodworkers out there want to do this for a living, their reputations are on the line too. And you don't want anything to come back at you where there were questionable practices. So.
Have you heard any stories about that kind of stuff?
No, not offhand. I don't know anybody. I mean, the woodworkers that I'm familiar with that I, who are, and a lot of them who I call friends, no, they don't engage in anything like that.
Roll with a good crew.
They really
do. Very nice. Yeah, it's interesting. I never thought about, I guess, art and that kind of I mean, obviously, like the work that Julie and I do, we try to be as sustainable as possible. But with I don't know, it's something. It's almost like something much more palpable with the kind of work that you're doing. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah.
No, the wood we're working with is like in shambles, falling to pieces, and bugs living in it.
But the thing is, you make something of those, and that's what I tried doing as well. Sometimes I get, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, whenever I have my wood come in from different mills, they're freighted, and they go through hell during the freight process. And I get stuff that's just torn apart, broken, split like you wouldn't believe, and you really can't make anything out of. But a good worker would, will do what they can to kind of salvage that and make, I mean, you're making.
And that's kind of where the resin comes in play in a lot of ways, right?
Yes.
Kind of keep those pieces back together.
Exactly. Yeah. And with resin, so as you guys probably know, resin is with wood is a big thing. I mean, I have my opinions about it, but it's an accent, and it's and some people will see it as a different medium, and combining it with wood. So it's not necessarily anything new these days, but it's something that kind of really took off. Yeah. River tables are a big thing.
Oh,
That just took off the last couple of years.
Yeah. Have you made any like true river tables yourself, like kind of connecting two pieces of wood with resin?
Okay. I probably get a lot of flack for this. I prefer not to make a river table.
Real?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Why?
So the tables I have made that actually utilize resin.
He's like, it's overrated.
Well, I try reminding myself and the customer that it's great as an accent, but when it's so overpowering,
becomes like the predominant focal point.
Yeah.
And true story. So I had a potential customer who wanted a full-blown river table. Yeah. And she really had, she already had this concept in mind, and the type of resin too. So I don't know if you've seen that really, not glittery, but there's certain dyes and pigments and stuff that you can add to it. And this one gave it a very wavy, cloudy kind of.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. It's pretty popular these days. Well, she wanted something like that, and I told her that you have to be careful with. It looks great on Instagram.
Oh, for sure.
And but when it's in your dining room, it takes on a different perspective.
For sure.
She spent. I'm not going to say how much she spent, but it was close to. Yeah, it was close to. It was 5 figures. Oh, man. Okay. So she called me up about a half year after she had gotten her table, and she said, Ming, this looks absolutely silly. It didn't go with anything she had. It was just way too wicked crazy. And some people like that. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, it's there's everything has its place. But what is it? Was it like a dining room table?
It was a dining table.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. It was a big one too, about 9 feet long.
Wow.
Yeah. She spent a lot of money on that.
Yeah. Dang. That's crazy. I mean, I feel like maybe this is my opinion on it. Maybe you can tell me what yours is that you don't need there's something so beautiful about just a beautiful slab of wood. Yeah. Especially with I know you've been doing like mounted on you've been mounting your tables on metal on metal mounts. Yeah. And also I'm sure have you ever done any on just wood as well? Wood on wood?
I've done quite a few. In fact, I know it's kind of weird because now that I think about it, it kind of goes in waves. For some reason people will that's all they want are wood bases, wood legs, and then all of a sudden it just shifts and we want metal base and that's all you hear. And then now I'm hearing more wood bases.
Interesting.
Yeah. So right now I'm working on a large coffee table that's in a true spirit of George Nakashima. Wood base. Nice. And and actually I'll be posting more of those pictures on Instagram pretty soon. But
at Pasadenaville. Follow it.
I put it in the comments there, if anybody wants to see.
This is the stuff I truly love doing. It's just wood, and it's always kind of what I mentioned early on about going back to basics. It's something that I'm so comfortable doing. There's just there's a beauty in the simplicity sometimes, and I try not overlooking that. And I think that especially these days. I see a lot of woodworkers who try to outcompete others and themselves sometimes by doing the craziest, and I've seen metal bases on live edge table. They're just so crazy and ornate that it's actually competing with the wood. And actually, you don't really want to do that. You kind of want the wood to that's your focal point right there.
I mean, I gotta another amazing thing that you helped us out with was for the table that we were working on for our office, and you mentioned instead of 4 legs, why'd you do the 3?
We have the 3-leg table.
It is amazing. And we, just with something as simple as just take out a leg.
Right.
Like I've done coffee tables like that. I can't see why it wouldn't work with a desk. And again, it's so with the hairpin legs too. It's like it almost looks like it's just floating sometimes.
Right.
It's just like you said. It really.
It's like on its tiptoes.
Right.
Yeah. The hairpin is just like so like heavy, but so dainty.
I think that people. we're ingrained with you know, knowing what works.
Yeah.
4 legs.
Yeah.
You know,
Like, that's it.
right?
How's this gonna stand? You know?
Yeah.
No, when he told me it was gonna be, he was like, I put 3 legs on it, and I was like,
You're like,
are you
what?
sure?
Did
you lose the other one?
Mings wing guaranteed.
No.
Well, remember, I made sure I asked you how heavy. Well, the thing was a heavy piece. So,
Yeah. So really, like, weight.
I mean, that was my concern. I was like, there's no way that slab. I mean, it's so heavy. It needs 4 legs.
Yeah.
But it's proven. It's in our room, and it's doing just great.
It's
And
great.
I love it.
Well, going back to my math, it becomes simple geometry, basically. You know, I mean, the distance between those 2 rear legs, you know, and then, you know, so that triangular formation, once you have a good, you know, setting right there, it's functional.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere.
It's interesting. Do you see a lot of help from your background in mathematics kind of play into your woodworking?
Well, I think that with a lot of wood, you know, especially when you're doing angles, you know, I mean, just working a miter saw sometimes, you know, you've got to get that right. If you're not doing something, if you're not doing something that's a 90 or a 45 degree, you know, and then you've got to cut a corresponding piece, you know, using an angle that you've already cut, you know, where it adds up to 180 degrees or 90 degrees. But I've seen a lot of people struggle with that, and
I'm one of them right here.
No, what are you talking about?
Oh man, like it took me a very, very long time to get comfortable trying to figure out something that wasn't 45 degrees or 90 degrees. I was like, my brain was like hurting until finally like it clicked. So I know that that struggle for sure. Yeah.
Well, especially like woodworking, if you're working with a limited number of pieces, or it's just a one. I mean, you got to get it right that first time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, or else you're having to go get more wood.
And you're like, all right, time to go back to back to the lumber yard on that one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in terms of your craft, like where you started and where you are now, do you see yourself progressing in terms of how you envision your tables? Like, do you feel yourself wanting to experiment a little bit more?
Yeah, I think even going beyond tables, you know, I've done credenzas, I've done highboys, and I've done chairs before, but you don't see a lot of those because they're really hard to do on a custom basis. These days, you know, I'm still trying to figure out what differentiates tables from other types of furnitures, because you know, you look at a credenza, there's so many out there that, you know, even the mass-produced ones, even good ones from IKEA, really, you know, and people start to hack them too. They'll put a veneer finish on it, you know, or paint it, or, you know, something where they customize it, they make it their own, you know. Whereas, so it's really hard to do something on spec with those type of furnishings, because it's very time consuming. I'm not the best when it comes to joinery work. You know, I'm always still trying to improve my skills on, you know, that, and I'm hoping to learn more about Japanese joinery, because they're
oh, you mean the ones where it's like they cut the joint?
The interlocks and all this. I mean, it's beautiful stuff. I mean, I've attempted before and failed miserably. You know, but, you know, again, the learning process.
Oh,
but,
for sure.
I think that woodworkers, especially because there's so many now, i.e. Etsy, you see so many. Nobody wants to be a one-trick pony anymore. And so I want to make a Sam Malouf version type rocking chair. You know, I've never made a rocking chair before, nice. And I think anybody can make a rocking chair, but to do a Sam Malouf one, it's amazing. So anybody who doesn't know Sam Malouf rocking chair, just go on Google. You know, just Google it, and you'll see what I mean.
Okay,
you know,
interesting.
Really something.
Sam Malouf.
Sam Malouf. Yeah.
Malouf.
Maloof.
Sam
Gotcha.
Malouf. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to go check that out.
Yeah, we're not familiar.
Yeah. And I also, you know, get a lot of inspiration from other woodworkers too. There's one guy, Patrick Catanian, who he makes everything. I mean, and on a very custom basis. And just to see what he goes through, you know, I find it very inspiring. It gets me to want to go that next step right there. Yeah.
Have you ever thought of, speaking of a next step, have you ever thought of doing anything sculptural? Anything that's like totally devoid of function, or maybe not, maybe kind of bridges the gap between functionality?
I've thought of it. And in fact, I have a sketchbook that I always put ideas in.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, but I've never had the opportunity to, kind of take it to the next step. But I'd like to, and I think that also, over the last couple of years, doing what I do, I also have exposure to all, other mediums, other arts, and as well, and a lot of, clay sculptural artists who I've never had any exposure to before, and that kind of got me inspired to, do something with wood, as far as like a strictly art piece.
Yeah.
And so it is something I'd like to, tackle.
Oh
sometime.
man, I think you'd be once if that what if that ever happens, or I should say maybe when that ever happens. I think that's going to be awesime.
I keep putting it off. Yeah. Oh, and Linda would love this. So there was one big burl piece that I was actually going to do a fortune cookie. I don't know if you ever.
Oh, cool.
It didn't work out. The wood started. There was too many weak points. There was a lot of spalting. It started kind of crumbling, and I'll put it off and do another one sometime.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
it was just too similar to the fortune cookie. You squeeze those things, they crumble into pieces. Yeah, it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, at one point, at any one time, how many pieces are you typically working on in terms of commissions?
That's a good question. Because I have had like 3 or 4 that I'm working on at the same time, but you always, I'm sure maybe you've seen me just stressed and bitching, and also it doesn't become fun anymore too.
Oh, of course, yeah,
right.
You put too much on your plate. And
yeah. So I try not to have more than really 2 at any one time. Yeah. And because there's just so much involved in each of them that, and I don't have that much space to work with too. So. And you've probably seen I'll have some works in the studio, some outside in the hallways, and the common area. And the last thing I want to do is inconvenience other people too.
You don't even look. You're gonna inconvenience us with all this beautiful piece of artwork that all this is littered around. We love it.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've always been really intrigued about when it comes to your work is that idea of like going into your space, and I would just wonder like what your mindset is like being surrounded literally by your wooden slabs. Do you ever like have like those a moment of contemplation? You're like, wow, you just like look like, for example, like looking at like Julia's work sometimes, because she used to have her pieces up in my area. I would like stop what I was doing and I would just kind of like look and like kind of get lost in her work,
that's kind of a good point.
In your case, though, you're literally in a forest. Kind of like you go in and there's like literally like slabs of trees. Like,
to be honest, I don't think it's my stuff that I get inspiration from, but rather other people's work. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, I think my motivation kind of works differently. And I actually told Linda this. Sometimes. Many times I enjoy, and actually that kind of goes with the entire big arts area too. I'm the type of person where if the place is buzzing with activity, it just really gets me motivated, gets me going. When it's quiet and you can hear a pin drop, I just don't have it.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so, and whenever I come in and I see other people's work or their doors open, Beverly, sometimes I go into her space and see what she's up to, and I see something new, and I think that kind of gets me to want to
Interesting.
So it's not so much the stuff that I have, because I see it every day. I see it all the time.
So I guess like for example, one of the things that I personally have always entertain in terms of where I would inevitably want to be would be like have a property that had like its own studio, you know what I mean, like on the property, and have that kind of seclusion to work. It sounds like you're different. Like you want to be in the thick of it.
I am. So I know how you can probably tell me, artists in general, you feel most of them like to, have their own studio, be by themselves. Okay, see, I'm very different than that.
Yeah.
But there are some times too, though, where it's again, like you said, you kind of feed off of the energy.
Yeah.
I go back and forth. I have times where I'm like, don't want to be bothered by anybody, and I'm like, I wish it was quiet. And then I have times where I'm like, everybody's around, and you can tell energy's good. You know, everybody's creating and making things, and you're like, yes, I'm in it. You know, like, I'm in it with them, and I can feel it all together.
Especially when it comes to building. You know, when we were during the pandemic, when you were building your space and we were building up our space too, like. Having that, like, okay, there's someone in arms with us, like in the trenches, trying to get all this stuff done.
Exactly, that's what I mean. I know that I got a lot of inspiration just watching and looking at what you guys were doing to your space. That. And I mean, you guys have such an awesome space. It's great. Yeah, but and that's what got Linda and me going. With our loft area and no regret, but it couldn't have happened without that inspiration.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah. No, I mean, I remember like having to ask you all the technical questions about the sliding door, and you even gave us your old one where you're like, I can't use this thing. It's like freaking 1,000 pounds.
I remember that.
Oh man, those are good times. See, like I think that's an interesting moment of like things being very quiet at the studio, but there's still being that interaction between the people that were there. Yeah. Like I think it would have been a whole lot different if it was just Julie and I showing up trying to build things, but like we saw Carson, Linda was obviously around too, and it was just like I think that. The bond I think that's come from, especially this past year, really I think brought like Building 5 kind of like really close together.
I agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I totally agree. It's a great group. It's almost like a collective, really.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. I think like if anything, we're slowly making our way, through the Warehouse 5, right?
I know.
Well, that's interesting. So, different strokes for different folks. For me, it's like, so when I first got to Big Arts, I really there was something about that borderline anarchy.
Oh, it was pretty wild.
I mean, when I found out that a lot of the people there, worked on like Burning Man installations.
Oh, for sure.
I was like, oh, this is awesome. But so coming from Keystone, I was a little apprehensive as far as how I would be able to blend in with a lot of the people there. But it's just, I mean, it was like open arms from the very beginning.
Oh,
it was,
sure.
It was really great.
I think artists know their own, and I mean the cool thing about that place is that I remember, same thing. I was very apprehensive when I first walked in there, but I think the one thing that really sold me was what was her name? Shia?
Oh,
she had her
metal sculpture.
Yeah. She had her metal. I think it was an iris flower of all things.
Before my time.
Yeah. It was quite.
Yeah, it was like done. 9 foot tall iris flower.
It took up
was
a
it
lot
an
of
iris
space.
Flower? Because
it
that would be very interesting. I replaced her.
Exactly.
I work with the iris flower a lot. So I wish I had seen it.
Oh, it was amazing. And she was like, shout out to. Is it Shia?
Shia,
Shout out to Shia for she's an amazing artist too.
She was a doolab.
Exactly.
Fabricator.
Right? Yeah. Are they still there in that section?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard stories. I don't want to say anything, but that, and this was way before the pandemic. That they were kind of on shaky ground.
Oh, really?
But as far as what's happened since then, I really haven't.
I mean, I just know they were working on that lion car, or someone was working on a lion car over there, which is pretty dope.
Wow,
that was really something.
We want to just kind of pause this a little bit because we have to shut down Instagram Live because they only let us go for an hour at a time, and then we will be continuing on YouTube. So thank you for everyone who's joined in on Instagram Live. If you would like to continue watching, we will be on YouTube, but we also post a video later after we're done filming as well, so you can go back and work through the bits that you like.
All the juicy moments.
Yeah, so thank you guys again for tuning in. We'll be back in 2 weeks from now. Not next week, but the week after that.
Yes.
With a new artist who's yet to be confirmed, but lots going on. And yeah, we're Artory DTLA. Yeah. All right, so we're going to hop over to YouTube now from IG Live.
All right. Guys, have a good one.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks. Hold on. YouTube. Download.
All right, save.
Save. Cool. We had 750 people tune in.
Wow. Very cool.
Thanks to the fans.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh man, now we can kind of let our hair down a little bit.
YouTube's like the, YouTube's like the raw, like nobody cares.
Yeah.
We care, but we don't care,
It's so weird, like when you have that. I don't know, like with. I guess it has to do with like that people are commenting and there's a little bit more of an eye on you, rather than YouTube is like, I'm just looking at ourselves.
Never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, like,
but you've done it enough times where you would know.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing is, I think when we first started, I think it's with anything, that beginner mind, like facing the unknown, and you're just like,
of course,
my God, like, what am I going to say? I'm going to like mess up with my wording, yada yada yada, and then it's just like riding a bike.
Right.
I think I remember the first time we were trying to do an intro video to the Artory DTLA team. We were just like, it's been like 2 hours.
We didn't use any of the footage.
Right.
We didn't use any of it.
It's too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good lesson.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? I had like a good transition.
We were talking about just Do Lab and
Do Lab and Big Art Labs all the time.
Labs. Yeah.
We were talking about Building 5 and how amazing Building 5 is, and we continuously talk about that. We want everybody from Building 5 to like be on the podcast, so we can work through it all. And we were talking about how it's like the golden, it's like the golden age of Building 5. Even though I didn't know what Building 5 was like before,
it was intense. Like remember the axe wielding incident and the
what?
You don't remember the guy that used to have MySpace?
Oh yeah, I do remember him. In fact, I was there.
Right. Or what?
Oh, he was no. So
he was nuts. He was crazy.
Drama in the art world, guys.
Did I ever
just the drama is in the art world too. Like, in the art buildings.
I think he, talking about burning out, he did labyrinth. He did labyrinths. That was like his art form, and maybe just did too many labyrinths and just got caught in his own labyrinth. You know what I mean?
He was crazy.
It was freaking. So that day, Piruz was my former tenant mate. Yeah, Piruz was we're like working on on some pieces for our first show together, and he disappears. I'm like, what the hell is this guy? And then I smell someone smoking weed. I'm like, oh, maybe he found someone to smoke weed with or something, whatever. And so he comes back and he just looks like he's traumatized. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, we need to go. Like, I was like, what? It's like, just tell him what's going on. He's like, no, let's go and I'll tell you what happened. And so apparently he saw that guy outside that day. Like the day before, he started like running around crazy with the axe.
Right.
And he just started talking to him. He's like, oh, you leaving? Like, what's going on? And so he had invited Piruz to come into the space to smoke a joint with him. And so before, I don't know if you ever went in there before.
I have.
Yeah. And so you know how the room was like, there was no lights in the sound room, and it was just like a dark pit.
Yeah, I remember.
So apparently, they're smoking in there, they're talking, and then he just starts talking about like how he wants to start a fight club, and he's like telling Piruz to like punch him and all these things, and Piruz is like, oh my God, like what the hell's going on? And then apparently they go outside, and he starts climbing the partition like and down really quickly. And he's like, Alex, I don't even understand how you like. It was so nuts. And so we went to Barbara's Brewery, and then we came back, and we're like, okay, like that was just a weird moment. Right. We're gonna be okay. We have to go back to work, and then that's when like we hear him like break, using the axe to break down the door, throwing all stuff. And we're like, oh my God. And then he would come around, and we had the door kind of slightly ajar. And so you come and like peek into like the little gap and like start dancing, and we're just like, oh my God, like we need to leave. Right. So yeah, that's the energy that we were dealing with at that time?
I've heard
pretty
stories.
negative energy.
It was intense.
Like,
I was there when, Christine, even Kenny was there, and a couple of others.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Where they confronted him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and
we decided to take a day off.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
After that, we're like, look, we're gonna wait until he's out there, right? Because that's too much.
It was pretty intense.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, look. I mean, I think
You
it
didn't
was.
miss much, okay?
no, I believe it. I'm like,
No, you
glad
like
I'm
things
out of
calm.
there.
Things calm
It'd
down.
be too stressed for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not working here
It was
anymore.
stressful. Even for me, it was
Uh-huh.
pretty stressful because
For sure.
he was like a Jekyll and Hyde, where he would just
Really?
Yeah, I mean, he was like a
Uh-huh.
nice guy one moment, and then the
Uh-huh.
next day he was just, I mean, crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so this wasn't like anything new.
Yeah, and because
Uh-huh.
he most of the time he was quiet.
Yeah.
He would just hole up in his studio,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but the times that I interacted with him, more or less generally, it was okay. You know, he seemed like a nice guy. But then there were other times where you knew he was just kind of losing it. And
Oh my goodness.
yeah, it was really weird.
Was there any other kind of instances that you saw?
Yeah, so there was one guy who had the initial corner loft.
Oh, Beverly. I remember when I first
She
came.
told you
Beverly
about
was
him?
like, well, she said there was a lot of issues, but
Yeah.
they shouldn't go into any.
There was this one guy who
Yeah.
was just
Right when you come in the building?
Yeah, you're the place that you leased, basically.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so in that corner right there, so that was the first loft.
Yeah.
Right. You guys
Exactly.
built on.
Yeah.
So there was a guy.
Oh, no.
The name that comes up is Svengali, because he
Interesting name.
he wooed the women in the he just
Oh,
had this-
really?
Yeah, with the music he played, and he was always spouting philosophy quotes.
Oh man, a true Lothario over here.
Yeah, but the trouble that we had was he was, loud music is one thing, and we
Oh, of course.
go through a lot of loud music.
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But this guy took it to a whole different
Like,
level.
well, like,
yeah,
felt
everybody.
your brain
just,
was shaking,
Yes,
huh?
yeah. I mean, the whole building was just constantly shaking.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was just he was kind of annoying at times too. I mean, I have a high tolerance for
Yeah.
people like that.
You're a very patient guy.
I like
know?
to think I
Yeah.
am. I'd like to think I am.
You definitely
So when something or somebody really gets up my craw, it really does.
Yeah.
But I'll say something if I have to. But not a lot. I mean, for example, noise level. I know sometimes some people talk about that, whether it's music, machinery going, what have you.
Yeah.
I tend to be a little. I mean, for me, it's like I know what I got myself into.
For sure.
I mean, and where I used to be over at Keystone, the manager. So that building was bought out by a developer, and it turned into a charter school. But the management set up a new Keystone Arts building.
Oh wow.
Very close to where we are.
Really?
Yeah. And it was very fine arts, so very clean, beautiful, beautiful building, what they did. She invited me, to set up shop over there.
Yeah.
But I knew that it wasn't conducive to what I was doing. The old Keystone, great.
Yeah.
The new one, it was very, and you
Like,
could
you'd
tell
be
they were
afraid to put like some dust on the ground.
yeah, and you can tell that they were gearing it more towards the fine arts side of of things, and so and I totally respect that. And I thought I was I felt very fortunate that her name was Melanie. That she invited me to set up shop over there.
For sure.
But Beverly asked me if I wanted to set up shop with her over Big Arts, and so the rest is history from there. But I know that. But going back to what I said earlier, I'm generally pretty okay with anything and everything that goes on. Over there. And,
I mean, I think, like you said, it lends to the energy,
Yeah.
right? And I've definitely seen a noticeable shift with. I mean, I think that the people that are there that you're sharing your space with are gonna add to that atmosphere, right? And so it honestly takes some turnover in order to find like a good energy, a good synergetic working atmosphere. And I
Yes.
think, like Julia says, we've definitely found it. I think, especially with like when Carson came through, it was like he's such a sweetheart. He's such an amazing, artist in his own right.
Yes,
I think
very much so.
that was an amazing addition. When Nick got there too, another awesome individual.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel very, very fortunate.
Yeah,
for sure.
In fact, so when I moved in, as far as Stephen is actually the only person I know who was there before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And how long have you been there again?
5, right?
So, yeah, Linda and I just talked about this. I believe it's 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. God,
Yeah,
it
and
seems time flies.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then you, Beverly, and Linda all went together. At the same time?
Linda actually came aboard right about that time.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool,
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
very
Beverly kind of like found her, or
Yes.
like they connected. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And now, how does it feel now when you went from I guess 3 to like 4 people kind of working in that one space with Beverly to now just you and Linda being in close quarters together?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
I think that I definitely had a little more space than I had
Oh, yeah.
prior. Yeah.
Yeah, for
Linda
sure.
had spades more space than she had beforehand.
For sure.
And when we built the loft, it just added that much more room to it. Yeah. And from the very beginning, I think Linda and I wanted to make it very functional.
Yeah.
That was the important thing.
For sure.
Hopefully we can spruce it up a bit. Put some string lights or what have you. Or something
mean,
like
it's
that. That's something
yeah.
I've always wanted to do. You guys have the best lighting situation, and
Oh,
really,
We got a little carried
yeah.
away really quickly.
Oh,
Like,
for sure.
you got one Philips light bulb that turns blue, and we were like, well, let's get
We
another
need-
one. And
It
they're like,
literally was
"But
like
what
we're
if
gonna
we
get
had
like
all the
3,
lights?"
yeah,
Alright.
and now we have like 20 or something like that. It's crazy, yeah.
Right.
I don't even know. They just keep sprouting out. We have them all in our home too
Right.
now.
Oh,
like
really?
all of our
Okay.
light bulbs almost at the house
Yeah.
are all
There you
those
go.
colors, and so we've got a color. We literally have colors in every different room.
There
and
you go.
yeah, it definitely makes a difference. It's,
Yeah,
it,
yeah, it
and
really
it
does.
helps the creative process in so many ways. And now that we're having art shows and we're having performers come, it helps kind of like put
Yeah.
on the performance, in a way better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really fun.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about a little bit about your feeling on blocks, like getting blocked or like feeling blocked and like not being able to kind of like work through it, or not feeling like you can make things. Like, how do you get through?
Oh, you mean
those
like a mental
blocks?
block
Yes.
kind of a thing?
Sorry, I kind of jumbled that, but just kind of like your personal experiences getting through blocks and how you might kind of recommend somebody else kind of in your position getting through those blocks and like continuing to create.
I think what's worked for me in the past is something as simple as just taking time off. And I know you've seen me kind of stressed out when I've got just a lot on my plate, and poor Linda, she's really seen me stressed out sometimes. But there have been times when I just took days away, from woodworking in general. And and sometimes when I've had custom orders and I've had a promised deadline, I'll call up the customer and say, "Can I extend? I'm going to push the completion date." And almost all the time, they're very understanding. And so it's I think so. Time off, I think, is an important thing. Just don't even think. For me, don't even think about woodworking. Just take it easy. Go up to, on a day trip to Santa Barbara, or go visit some relatives up in the Bay Area. And now I have done that before. Also, starting the day off well, and so there. Most mornings, there's this group I hang out with. I won't live with myself if I don't drop their names. David, Stephen, and Mike. And we're kind of a coffee crew.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Cool,
So we meet every morning at a courtyard in Old Pasadena, and just talking shit. That just sometimes mindless stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes whatever the topics of the day. It could be cultural, political. You name it. And it's always a great conversation because when at the end, I'm always feeling good about starting the day off right, and being around good people.
For sure.
And it just rubs off on you, and that always helps out. And going back to what I said, how I enjoy having people in the studio, especially when there's a buzz of activity.
Right.
That helps as well for me.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because everybody has their own thing,
Yeah.
and especially in a time like the pandemic where it's just like, things are happening for like really quickly, and then all of a sudden everything just stops, and then like that sets up a different kind of mental block. It's not just like you're too overwhelmed with things, you don't know what to do. It's like there's nothing to do, and so like then you're like, I don't know what to do, and it's really interesting. And I like to ask, because people will just say music all the time, or like, oh, I'll just go hiking and then I'll come back, and or I'll just go spend more time with my dog or something.
Right.
So yeah.
Then I think that some people find solace in the actual work that they do. I mean, and Linda and I have actually had this conversation before, where and she's told me on a number of occasions where she just enjoys going to the studio, turning that wheel on and just making something. So like I know you're a big yoga person, and and that's is that your outlet as far as trying to get over
in a sense, I would say that I am actually on a block right now from yoga. Alex practices yoga every day, and I would say he's more on it than me. I've been practicing for about 11 years, and I'm definitely dedicated to it. But I've been in this weird state of mind where I'm like, I can't get myself to do it. Okay. Although with the exception of the last couple days, we've gotten back into doing Ashtanga, and my body is like hurting right now. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like been so long since I've done it, and so yoga is definitely a good way to get through it. Hiking, of course. We try to go outside.
Yeah, you guys are really big
a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I will say though, with me personally, I go through periods of time. Like my working process it's really irregular, and I'll essentially binge work. And I'll go through, a couple weeks of like wanting to do the same thing for like an extended amount of time. Like I'll do a lot of drawings, or I'll plan to do too many. Like I did 2 murals in 1 week the couple weeks ago, and a few other things, and then I get really burnt out. I'll just do too much at one time, and then I'll get really burnt out, and then I'll just want to like lay on the bed for another 3 weeks after that, and I'm like, okay, I need recovery time, and so time off for me for sure is really important. I personally wish it wouldn't go as long as I let it go, but I think that it's really helpful for my process, and it gives me a lot of time to even just like think about things more, and like why think about myself and why I do that, or find new inspiration, and just plan. So that's what I do.
Good deal. It's like really interesting to see. Have you ever tried to force it? I guess it's a real
many times,
When does it ever work? Do you ever like get through the hump and then you're like, oh, I'm like, how did I got here? Or is it kind of like you see it more often?
Well, I think that also by forcing it, like I'm a quality control freak.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's very good.
It can really backfire on me. Because once something I make leaves out the door, I have to be really comfortable with it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. And I know I mentioned this a little earlier, but if I feel that it's just not worthy of having my name associated with it, I won't hesitate to just bring it back. And I've half-assed it before many times. I mean, I don't know anybody who hasn't.
Yeah.
But the last thing you want to do is make it a habit.
Oh, for sure.
And sometimes it's too easy to do.
Oh, of course. Yeah. It's easy to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the. I think it makes the creative process worthwhile, because it's not only just working on a piece of canvas or on a piece of wood. It's working on yourself at the same time. And I think the quality of the work kind of exemplifies the quality of you and the evolution of you as a human being. So I totally get it. And I think for me, my pitfall was I like to push through. I like just to be at the studio, and I'll even if I just don't do anything, I'm there. But I realize, and I think I have to thank Julia for helping me out, kind of understand that you do need space, you do need to kind of retool and recharge for sure, and just take a different approach. Because what good is it going to be if you're just there kind of just like kind of
exactly
flittering around without kind of like a moth to a flame, not really kind of having any real aim or direction. I totally get it. For sure. It's just again but the cool thing though is that even that's a part of the process, learning what doesn't work.
It really is. I totally agree.
Well, I'm super grateful that we have the ability to create things, and we're doing what we love, and we have this opportunity. We're, to be here together, and
hell yeah,
art is so cool. Like
really
being able to create things is so cool, and I'm so glad that we're doing this. Because, I hope that we can, with doing this, that we can inspire other people to create as well. And I'm going to say it again because I say it every time. Like, I want more people to collaborate too. I want more creators. And any medium can come together in some way. And so I envision, like, I was thinking about it earlier. You're talking about, we've been talking about Linda on and off, because obviously you're with her all the time in the space. And so I was like envisioning having like seeing a table that you create, and there's like a river or like a little slab of like clay that like Linda's crafted to like fit within the table, and I was like, that'd be such a cool collaboration.
I do hope. So we've talked at length on a number of things.
For sure.
And she, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy in the world, really. Having her as my studio mate, because she, I just enjoy working with her, working alongside her, and I know that, and just her, just her level of creativity is just something that I would love to work with.
For sure.
I'm hoping that we can, collaborate on something, really beautiful in the future. A number of things, I hope.
Yeah, well, hey, that's the thing, that you guys got nothing but time. So can't wait to see, it seems like, for you that like falling into things has been kind of like the natural progression, just being open to where, where the moment was going to take you. So, I'm sure, especially now with Linda, saying that on the horizon, she's going to be making the jump over to doing full-time ceramics is, maybe that's going to be the time. Maybe just her being in the studio a lot more often. You're going to be like, no, what? It's like, Linda, come here. Let's do something, So we'll see.
And I think that she definitely knows what's going to be best for her.
And without a doubt.
And she's just got such a just a smart head on her shoulders, and she's the patient type too. And I can tell, there are times when she wants to just jump into it, but she, I think that she strikes me as always taking a very rational approach to things as well.
I feel like with her work, that patience needs to be like ingrained in you.
She's
even like when I was watching, when we were filming her, like just the way that she like works with the wheel, and you're like, oh man,
it requires a patience. Ceramics requires a patience.
There was just recently. So Carson came by the studio, and he needed to ask Linda a question. I go, well, yeah, Linda's right there, And we were both looking at Linda because she was in the zone. She was the zone, right?
Come back
Couldn't be bothered with it. She just filtered everything out, you know.
For sure.
And we were just for like a couple of minutes just watching her.
You're like, whoa.
But that really attests to her dedication and her love of just working with clay, and just it shows. It shows.
We love you, Linda.
We do love you, Linda.
You're a superstar.
Maybe that concludes it for the night.
I think let's just conclude
that.
that.
Anything else you'd like to share?
No, one thing I would like to say is that anybody who's thought about going into woodworking or just giving it a try, we've talked about this before. Especially in LA, there's quite a few maker spaces that popped up, and that's become a really big thing now. And at first I was a little apprehensive as whether they're able to kind of if somebody who wants to dedicate themselves to working or learning a craft, be it woodworking, welding, metalwork or what have you, or let's face it, lately we've seen a lot of clay studios pop up.
Speaking of
Yeah,
which, there's
there's
one, right? Yeah.
And but then I kind of thought about, well, what about the regular person who, like I was 20 years ago, who didn't know where to begin, where to start. I mean, these places are really great. I mean, and with woodworking, some of these places, what you learn is how to square a piece of wood. Throw it through a jointer, face joint it, plane it, rip it, cut it, and then there are others that will shoot you straight into like making a cutting board. Something functional. And it's really fun too. And I think almost all woodworkers out there will tell you that we're not really competing with each other. We're always encouraging others to.
I mean, I think that's one of the main reasons why we even do this podcast is because we want to. I think that hierarchical pitting one person against the other is kind of a little outdated.
I agree.
It's nice to just be all on the same level, raising each other up.
Exactly.
So, And if anything, if you were ever thinking about doing workshops and being, and you being that catalyst, ooh, I'd be right there.
I don't know. A lot of liability issues with some of the machinery.
That is true.
But again, with some of these places, there's one in downtown. I cannot remember the name of it, but the one I'm most familiar with is Community Woodshop, and my two good friends, Bob and Scott Stevens. They run the place. It's a great place to learn new things. They have classes, both for beginners and advanced people, and I highly encourage taking even an orientation type of class, learning the tools, whether it's hand tools or big ass machinery. It's just that familiarization.
It's just have the patience if you're going to learn something new, like working with wood, have the patience to do it. Just realize that there needs to be a little bit of patience to do it, because things just don't happen overnight.
Everything's got a learning curve.
Oh, of course. Of course. And it's always good to have someone there to kind of help you along the way. I think that
there are resources.
There are resources.
Many resources. You can do anything online now. Pretty much.
YouTube.
YouTube has a resource for everything as well.
It's one thing to watch a YouTube and just taking woodworking in general. There's tons of videos on woodworking, but just to get your hands dirty to actually, that's another thing. So I think that for somebody, I can't remember. I was reading somewhere where but this was for I think metalwork for welding. For every 100 people who watch a welding video, only 2 people will actually pick up a welder. But I hope it's better than that.
I think with the way, especially with technology and the way you can orient it nowadays, for example, Miguel, who's going to be one of the featured artists for our next art show, he has a printing press.
Okay. Oh.
And he was thinking about we were talking with him about live streaming a workshop where he has people come through and has live students and then have other people that are online that could potentially kind of follow along that kind of way.
Yeah.
And I think that just with the with the utilization of technology and I think really creative ways, for me, I know there's been so many things that I never would have touched if I didn't have someone there, a mentor that could have pushed me along, someone that was there live. And then for any other kind of side things where I was I need something quick. I need something that's I need to figure this out. Having that technology base there at the same time. I think the numbers are only going to go up. Just
in person. Obviously, if you can find the resources in person to do it, obviously
without
go
a doubt.
for it. And community college is pretty much free to everyone, as far as I'm concerned, in at least California. Yeah. And so, I mean, the resources are there, but at the very least, like, find some online resources. Like, you have no excuse not to learn these things, you know, like, it's there for you. Right. So get out there and do it.
Yeah, for sure.
Totally agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, thank you, Ming. This was
it's my pleasure.
This was awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah. No, I mean,
a good time.
Yeah, it's been way too long for me to actually hear the whole story. So it's nice to have at least picked a little piece. This time. So we appreciate you.
We do appreciate you so much. We really we love working across from you.
Thank you.
So thank you for
likewise.
Being here. Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in. If you're still here, we're gonna sign off.
You're the true champions.
Yeah, we'll be back. Like we had said before, I think 2 weeks from now. Artists yet to be confirmed, but we're working on getting confirmation there. Potential cello player. Peter, if you see this, we want you on. For sure. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks to
Happening.
Thanks to Happening Studios for broadcasting this for us, and thank you to Silver and Golds again for the beautiful candle.
It smells so
amazing.
It
smells great.
We're in heaven over here.
Yes. All right. So we're Artory DTLA.
All right.
Thanks for learning about art.
All right. Have a good one, guys.